The tragic incident that unfolded on the 9th of December, one that the nation is talking about today with regards to Atul Subhash, a 34-year-old tech professional found dead at his Bangalore home, along with his body, a 24-page suicide note, and a justice is due placard was discovered, in which Atul accused his estranged wife Nikita and her family of harassment during their ongoing divorce proceedings. You're watching Viewpoint. I am Afrida Rahman Ali. This case has brought to light the sordid saga of divorce battles that couples have to go through, and most importantly, the fact that our legal system is often not equipped to A, expeditiously deliver justice, or B, becomes a punishment by itself to those who are seeking justice. So, to discuss this entire issue, I have with me on the program today Yashwant Giri, who's a Mumbai based entrepreneur. He is fighting a similar divorce battle. He'll share his experiences with us. Welcome, Yashwant. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having
And
me.
also with us is Anagha Nimkar. She's an advocate, a matrimonial lawyer. Anagha, thanks for joining us and a warm welcome to you as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Let me begin with you, Yashwant, since I wanted to understand from you firsthand on, you would have read about Atul Subhash. What did it make you feel? Because I believe you went through or probably is still going through a similar divorce battle, an alimony battle, all that Atul puts out in his note. How much of it is true about our system? And do you feel it's very likely that something of this nature can happen to a man when he is fighting for divorce?
Afrida, by the way, this is not the first incident that this has happened. There have been known cases in the past as well, where men who are especially facing so many allegations and criminal cases on them have taken this drastic measure. So this is not the first one. Also, I can tell you that because I have gone through a very, very, very similar situation, it can be extremely grim for a man on whom all sorts of allegations are put on, and the onus of proving his innocence is upon him. He gets socially boycotted. His livelihoods come at a very big question mark, because people will start looking at you as somebody who has to now prove his innocence, rather than the adage that you are innocent until proven guilty. So it takes a U-turn, and for people who don't have a very strong support system emotionally or even financially, it can become a harrowing experience. This sort of a system failure, I would say, because where women go to the extent of completely trying to destroy their own husbands, because the fight becomes so intense.
I'll come to you for specifics, Yashwant, if you want to share about your ordeal. But before that, and Anaga, I will also come to you on certain legal points about such cases, since you would have dealt with a lot of these
Right.
matrimonial cases. First, for our viewers, since we are talking about Atul Subhash, I want to play out a few sound bites. This is what Atul's father had to say after the incident. Let's listen in to some of the reactions to this case, that what the family of the deceased is going through.
जोर है कि मैं उसके बारे में क्या बताऊं। मेरा बच्चा तो सब बयान दे गया है। बहुत टॉर्चर, इतना टॉर्चर हुआ कि हमको नहीं बताता था कि मेरे माँ बाप दुखी थे।
कहीं ना कहीं हत्या की रही है।
अब ये तो आप उसमें सुने हैं ना कि टॉर्चर करना भी एक हत्या है। टॉर्चर करना भी एक हत्या है। हम तो यही मानते कि कानून व्यवस्था सही हो और मेरे बच्चे को इंसाफ मिले।
So it is being said now, and if you would have been following what is going on in social media, a lot of people are saying this is actually a murder by the system, because the system has failed this individual. Anaga, in your understanding, what has gone wrong that somebody is forced to take this step? If you've heard the video, what are your sort of takeaways from this particular video, the details, the testimonial that Atul Subhash has left behind?
Afrida, firstly, really the heart comes out when you see such videos. But honestly speaking, we see this not with this gravity, but to the same similar extent almost every day, day in, day out in court. Only that it is not, somewhere documented and all, so it does not come to the light of the day. But honestly, if you see every case, because cruelty in the court is anyway, there is no definition specified under law what is cruelty, and
Mm.
honestly it cannot be proven also in certain cases. Why? Because whatever happens in the four walls of the house, you do not keep on maintaining records and records and evidences, just because at certain point you will end up having a divorce with your spouse. So obviously there is no proof as such which has been kept there, because whatever transpires between the couple, only the couple knows what it is. There is no third witness to it until and unless certain incidences and abuses and violence have happened in public or in presence of the other family members and all. Moreover, the legal system, what we are today into, if you see any divorce proceedings in a court, takes nearly 5 to 6 years to come to a logical conclusion in one court. When I say one court, there are two more courts of appeal. So if I have to actually go through, fight a battle to get justice for whatever wrong has happened to me, I have to wait nearly 15 to 20 years in court. And I'm sure there are various such cases now. 15 to 20 years, see, if you have fought a case, you have started a litigation somewhere in the age of your 25 or 30, you are already losing a part of your life into this litigation, which is
Mm.
sadly really a sad but a true story which is happening day in day out in every courts, if you see
Yeah.
today
So, another
in,
two things you're telling me. Let me just, draw out what you're saying. First, you're saying that it may not be prudent to probably go by one side, and you're saying there is often not recorded evidence from both the sides to come to a conclusion. So that's what I drew from when you said, we don't know what has exactly happened inside the four walls. That's my number one. Number two, you are saying that the battle is so long and arduous and tedious a process that it is
yes.
not unlikely that somebody will be completely broken and made to take this step. Are you also going to tell me then that is it true, and that's the buzz now, that the because the laws are designed in favor of women, there is great misuse, and this stands out as an example of that?
Absolutely. The laws are definitely been misused by the haves rather than the have nots. Certain people are not even able to reach or take the steps of, lodging even a police complaint for whatever
Hmm.
wrong has happened, or
Hmm.
not even approach the court because of the society or family pressure, or because of the added responsibilities of the children and their future. So certain times you don't even reach the legal system. The
Hmm.
moment the person who are able to reach the legal system are at times making misuse of it. So the law is literally getting abused in other ways, that more than the use, the misuse is happening of it nowadays. It's not
Hmm.
only
Hmm.
here the simple cases of where of maintenance, cruelty and all. We should also
Hmm.
highlight, in Atul's case where everything is being highlighted, we also need
Yeah.
to understand there is a child also of 5 year old today. What trauma the child must be undergoing after seeing all these things, or after coming to know that what has happened to his father, or what is the state of his mother, what is the state of that child's mind, what is his psyche. Even that has to be addressed at this point in time, because custody battles are the most battles which are emotionally and mentally draining each of the lawyers of us who are practicing, more particularly the family law. You
Hmm.
imagine,
Hmm.
simple to see the glimpse of a child on a birthday, I have to make an application to the court and take the order of the court, and only then I can see a child, that too for a couple of hours here and there, and that too if the other custodian parents allows me to see the child. Otherwise it's not possible. So
Hmm.
laws, we need to really look into this laws at great extent.
I
Yeah.
have to
Okay.
I have to
Yeah.
butt in. I'm so sorry, Anaga, but
No,
I
no,
need to say
please
No
that
carry on.
problem.
in spite of me having numerous orders from family court to see my child,
Agree.
my ex-wife, the opposite party, intentionally did not let me see my child, and
Hmm.
up to a certain extent that for years and years I have not seen my child even today, and the alienation has happened. My daughter is probably brainwashed and thinks that her father is somebody else who he is not, and there is no way that the court is going to help me here. And I, even as I speak today, I have a petition pending in Bombay High Court, where I have pleaded the court to allow me to see my child. And because of lack of the justice suspension system, or whatever you might call it, the date, I don't get dates. When the dates come, the matter is not heard by the court because it is so low in serial number. But I have been going pillar to post to see my daughter, and I am
And in
unable.
this, and sorry, and I understand in
Yeah.
this court, the child who is minor, where you're fighting for a year or two, also turns up major. This is also
So
an
you are saying
agony again.
all of this adds to the mental trauma. All of
Absolutely,
this adds up,
absolutely.
and bit by bit it breaks you. And
Right.
Yes.
hear the entire story of Atul Subhash. It's a 1 hour, 20-minute long clip. I can't unfortunately play it out here, but many of us have heard it in detail. He talks about what Yashwant also just said, about the child, about how the entire system was in a way weaponized, because the laws were weaponized to torture him. Case after case after case was filed, and this Tariq pe Tariq, that also broke him because he had to travel that many hours. He had to find a Saturday to do it. He was a working person. But having said that, like you said, Anaga Nibkar, we haven't heard the other side yet, and there are doubts being cast as well. Let's listen into Kangana Ranaut. While she says it's unfortunate, there is a caveat she adds at the end. And I will come to Yashwant to ask his reaction on that. So, this is what Member of
से जब
Parliament,
तक सीमित
BJP
है,
Member of Parliament,
जब तक
Kangana Ranaut
उससे,
had to say about
क्योंकि
this case.
क्योंकि एक बहुत ही नौजवान और उनका जो वीडियो है वो दिल दहला देने वाला है। तो डेफिनेटली शादी जो एक हमारे भारतीय परंपराओं से जब तक सीमित है, जब तक उससे बंधी हुई है भारतीय परंपराओं से, तब तक ठीक है। लेकिन ये जो, जैसा उन्होंने खुद कहा है, जो कम्युनिज्म का कीड़ा इसमें, सोशलिज्म का कीड़ा इसमें, एक तरह से जो निंदनीय फेमिनिज्म का जो पूरा साइड है उसका कीड़ा इसमें, और बाकी 3-4 चीजें अगर इसमें और एक धंधा लोग बना लेंगे उसको, करोड़ों रुपए की एक्सटॉर्शन उससे की जा रही थी जो कि उसकी कैपेसिटी से भी बहुत बाहर थी। तो ये तो इसमें तो कोई कहने वाली ही बात नहीं है कि ये सब चीजें निंदनीय हैं, ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए। युवाओं पर इस तरह का बोझ नहीं होना चाहिए जो उनकी सैलरी है, जिससे उससे भी कहीं 3 गुना 4 गुना हर महीने वो प्रोवाइड करा रहे हैं, करोड़ों का उन पे जो है वो और मांग हुई जा रही है। तो वो प्रेशर में आके वो लड़के ने ऐसा किया। बट आई थिंक कि इस तरह के वो भी होने चाहिए और एक अलग बॉडी भी होनी चाहिए कि जो विक्टिम है उनको भी। बट हैविंग सेड दैट, एक गलत महिला का हम उदाहरण लेकर जितनी महिलाओं को हर दिन प्रताड़ित किया जा रहा है, हम उसे नहीं झुटला सकते और ये नहीं कह सकते। हमेशा 99% जो है मैरिजेस में पुरुषों का ही दोष होता है, इसीलिए ऐसी गलतियां भी हो जाती है।
So 99% Yashwant, Kangana Ranaut is saying मर्दों की गलती होती है. This is an aberration. Your thoughts on that?
No, I will not play the blame game here, saying that if the men are to be blamed or the women are to blame. People who want to misuse the laws, which probably were formed for the right reasons, those people have always existed and they will continue to exist. People who bend the rules and people who misuse it to their advantage. But we, as responsible citizens, have to make sure that our justice system is able to identify that within reasonable period of time, and people are not penalized uh, for their entire life for something that they have not done. For example, it took me after my ex-wife filed all sorts of allegations under the sun on me, and the police took cognizance of that and filed cases on me. It took me 8 years of running to courts to prove my innocence. That's when I was acquitted. So how much of a
But in
how much
your case, Yashwant, at least you had the courts doing its job. In the case of Atul Subhash, he's talking about corruption in courts. He's talking about the fact that that there was an instigation for him to commit suicide. And आप कब suicide commit कर रहे हो? That sort of a thing is being said in the court, in full public view. The judge has asked him for a bribe. So it's not as if those sort of maladies don't exist. So if, along with your legal troubles, if there was an additional burden where the courts or the judges or the lawyers were also sort of adding to the torture, your battle perhaps would have been unbearable for you.
No, actually, what happens is this is such a traumatic experience for a person who's close to family and close to his children, and when that person loses his position in society or in basic respect, loses his child, and so many cases are on him, and the person becomes so vulnerable that he becomes very weak, so to speak, and can take such kind of drastic steps. I mean, I would not say that we of course we wish that the system was perfect and clean, where nobody ever took bribes and everything was done. Of course we wish that, but that's utopian. And I would say our resilience level while fighting this sort of a battle is so one-sided for men today, that if a woman decides to really destroy a man, she has plenty of ways to do it legally, but the man does not have a way to defend himself, so he is extremely vulnerable today.
So the benefit of doubt, as if Anagha Nimkar by default goes to the woman, like you heard Kangana also say, 99% cases may, though that statistics, I don't know from where, how she's quoting it. I don't corroborate that sort
I
of a
honestly
statistic.
don't agree to the statistics what have been
exactly.
stated.
But
And,
having said that, that's the perception. Here is a public representative who's saying it. So it is reflective of what the society
it's
thinks.
hyped.
कि 99%
It's
में तो मर्द ही गलत होते हैं. So that also plays a part. And the laws, perhaps, and correct me if I'm wrong, the laws were perhaps created because the dowry deaths were happening at an alarming regularity, and the system wanted to correct that. But in doing so, you have tilted the balance so much on the other side that now misuse has become a problem. And to what extent would you agree that lawyers also have a part to play when they say, ये केस फाइल करना है, unnatural sex का केस फाइल करना है तभी कुछ हो? Because for a lawyer as a professional, you got to win the case for your client. You go to any extent and your client falls into the trap. So would you say that the lawyers also in lot of these cases play a very crucial role in instigating a woman? She doesn't know all the sections of the law. She doesn't know that this sort of a provision exists in law and that is how you could get your way around. The lawyers put it into the head of the client. That has compounded the problem, at least in the case of Atul. I'll ask Yashwant if that happened there as well. But tell me how far you blame the role of the lawyers in this.
No, I would honestly, despite being a lawyer, would not deny the role of the lawyers also for guiding and advising what is done in the courts and all. But honestly, see, understand one thing: the laws which have been framed, all laws which have been framed are years back. Laws of 55, the guardians and wards of 1869 and all. Now we need to overcome this. We need to rewrite this. We need to consider the current situation. The laws which were written at that point in time, they're actually that point the women needed that support, the women needed that protection. They were not so independent on their own, so it was a protection given to them at that point in time. Now after several years, nearly more than 50 years, 100 years, 75 years of our independence, we need to revive the laws to certain extent. No doubt family laws, when it comes to more particularly family court, we have counselors, but the litigation is so burdened, so lengthy litigation is there, so many fights are happening, we have so many cases every day in day out in court, almost nearly 100 cases on the board with only few judges and few counselors. How could they do the justice to each and every litigant? As a lawyer, undoubtedly we are the one who would guide them that what are the cases, what are the provisions, what they can get, the woman can get under law, what is that the male can get under the law. But ultimately, to gain all that, I have to be into a litigation for nearly 5 to 7 years. So is that really worth? can we not at the initial stage itself like have a pre-mediation, post-mediation, like before entering the court, like foreign courts have it, pre-mediation. If it is not settled there, then you go and proceed with the court cases. Then you have, first you can decide on your divorce and thing, and then simultaneously the properties can be decided. But here we do not even have a quantum of alimony and maintenance for the wife. There is no fixed formula. You have certain judgment, certain precedents which you follow, certain old case laws which you follow to come to the conclusion of the alimony and maintenance. Now to grab that, then different laws have been used and advised that this is what is your under the law. You get the protection here. You file one case here, so the women can claim maintenance under the particular statute of say Hindu Marriage Act simultaneously with 125 simultaneously under Domestic Violence Act. So all this only to just to create a pressure on the opposite party so that he succumbs to your unreasonable demand. But from where? And the legal system and the courts otherwise also, if you really have, because litigation also is an expensive affair, the one who can have it can afford, the one who do not have it, from where is that person going to defend 8, 9 and 10 cases against the other? Every court you need to appoint a lawyer, do the procedures part of it. So absolutely it is not going to, it's going to pinch your pockets. You may not have something to for your survival also, but just pay on the litigation cost to it. So this is
As I
really
understand it, Anagha, the determination on the part of the woman to sort of punish the partner is so acute that you're willing to go to any extent. The moment you're willing to go to any extent, the lawyer taps into that sentiment. Because for the lawyer, you need, again, I mean, let's not mince words about it. I mean, of course, there's money to be made there as well. So you would want to play into that sentiment. And in the process, if the laws facilitate it, and if the woman is educated enough, she can afford it, this is what the pattern is. But then where is the solution? I'll come to that. In fact, I also want to play one more soundbite. And Yashwant, then I'll come to you to ask you specifically about this point about, whether on the other side there's pressure of false cases and stuff like that you had to deal with in your particular case. But here is another member of parliament who spoke about this case.
Dowry harassment and such domestic abuse matters. Though was lofty, though was laudable, has also been minefields for misuse, and this has also been the concern of the Supreme Court in multiple instances. In a multitude of cases, the Supreme Court has tried to introduce balance and safeguard against misuse of these provisions. Be that as it may, at the lower judiciary levels, the long pendency, the potential for abuse, and the harassment of the litigants leads to such unfortunate incidents. The Modi government introduced 3 criminal justice legislations with the specific intent of addressing the long pending delays, to introduce swiftness of justice delivery and impartiality and integrity of investigation and judgment delivery. These are steps in the right direction, but more needs to be done. I think time has also come for us to review many of these family related legislations and also introduce wherever possible an aspect of gender neutrality so as to protect both the partners in a marriage. The family is a very important institution. It is the founding block of the society, and legislations that can be misused by one partner can be a detriment to the very institution of family and will have very strong social repercussions if not addressed.
Some question on judiciary also.
The question of the functioning of the lower judiciary has been a cause of concern. Even in the parliament, at the time of introduction of the and passing of the three criminal legislation bills, the Honorable Home Minister himself spoke of the need for overall judicial reforms and especially reforms at the lower judiciary level to bring balance, impartiality, integrity in the investigation, all of this go hand in hand. I think the reforms that have been brought to the criminal legislation bills, the IPC, CRPC and the Evidence Act that was introduced last year, is going to be a very significant step, first step in that direction of bringing that kind of a change, a reform. But lot more needs to be done, and state governments and the central government, the parliament, the state assemblies, because law and order is a judiciary and reforms is both is a concurrent subject. All of us as collectively as a society needs to comprehensively address
And
this.
you will raise this issue in Parliament also?
We will see, sir. We are making an effort.
Okay.
So, Yashwant, I think that's quite a fair analysis of the entire situation. But your take specifically on the issue of false cases. Mr. Tejasvi Surya was talking about the fact that certain course correction is required. But if you can give us an idea from your experience specifically of how the legal system sometimes works against the male spouse in such scenarios.
No, he said very correctly that the
Sorry
lower
about that. Carry on.
he said very correctly that the lower judiciary is far worse than the high courts and the Supreme Court. I mean, I think the apex court and the high courts are sort of a saving grace for the judicial system, because the lower and all these cases basically originate at district level family courts, where the systems are very defunct, I would say. And of course, Anagha is very active practicing lawyer. She would know more than me. But the lower judiciaries are a very, very, very slow justice delivery vehicles, where all sorts of corruption that you pointed out in the earlier remark are known to be true. And I feel that the lower judiciary needs a lot of attention by the people who are constructing our society.
No, I was also asking you specifically. One second, Anagha. I was also asking you specifically about you mentioned the lower judiciary, but I want to ask you about the fact that the law facilitates such a thing where you can add case after case after case. When one fails, you add another. Did you have to go through a similar situation, which makes the battle more prolonged?
Yes, we were married for 8 years, and when and we were not getting along, I filed for divorce, which is a civil case. As a retaliation, my ex-wife filed all sorts of cases that was at her disposal: 498A, 377, domestic violence, and not just against me, but against each and every of my family member, many of who don't even stay in Bombay. My parents stay far away, thousands of kilometers. They were also subject to being such harassment and such humiliation. And the best part is that the police, before taking the FIR and taking these cases, did not even do their due diligence or primary investigation. And so what would you say? I would still say, I have not lost my mind. I would still say that the lawmakers make the laws for a good reason, and there are many women out there who are genuinely in need of such laws. But these are being abused day in and day out. Supreme Court has said so many times that these laws are being abused. So we have to at least not shut an eye to what is happening, and at least take a relook at things. I mean, there is a sort of a narrative which we saw that clips earlier by Kangana Ranaut. I mean, that's absolute, almost like saying we are not even going to look at this. It's saying.
But Yashwant, if you heard her, she also said, "इसमें wokeism है और इसमें feminism का कीड़ा भी है." So there she wants to validate, of course, the fact that this pseudo feminism is what she's highlighting. Yeah.
A man ended his life. इसमें क्या wokeism है?
उसमें सबसे पहले लाइन लिखा हुआ है justice.
Yeah, one second. I think we have the soundbite of the brother as well. Anagha, just 1 second. I want to play this out because the brother has given a lot of statements to the media, and we heard the hysterical father.
At
Here
any
is what
cost, I want
Atul
you
Subhash's
media people
brother
are
had to say.
support us for this justice, and we want to fight against them, and at any cost, we want justice.
अस्थि लेके आया आप लोगों ने भाई की, आपके भाई ने सुसाइड नोट में कुछ लिखा भी था उस बारे में।
सर उसने ये लिखा है कि अगर उसे जस्टिस मिली तो उसकी अस्थियों को गंगा में बहा दिया जाए। अगर उसको जस्टिस नहीं मिलती है और करप्शन और जिस तरह से मेंटल हरासमेंट इसी तरह अगर किया जाएगा और उसे कोर्ट को डिसीजन में देने में अगर इतना करप्शन है, तो उसने लिखा है कि अगर उसे जस्टिस नहीं मिलती है तो कोर्ट के बाहर ही कोई गटर में उसकी अस्थियों को बहा दिया जाए।
किस लेवल का मेंटल हरासमेंट से उनको प्रताड़ित हुए थे, कैसा टॉर्चर हो रहा था, कुछ बताइए।
आप लोगों ने देखा है उसके 80 मिनट का वीडियो, उसमें आप एक एक पॉइंट पे उसने बात किया है, एक एक चीज़ों पे उसने बात किया है, और इससे आप लोगों को अंदाज़ा लगाया जा सकता है कि किस लेवल का हरासमेंट इंडिया में चलता है। कोई कानून या कोई भी ऐसा एक लॉ जो इंडिया में है, अगर आप लोग को पता हो तो हमें बताया जाए कि जिसमें मेन को कोई सुरक्षा मिलती है। जब से ये निर्भया कांड हुआ उसके बाद लॉ को ऐसा बना दिया गया जिसमें सिर्फ लड़कियों को इतना दिखाया कि इतना पेनफुल लड़कियों को होता है। क्या ये ऐसा नहीं हो सकता है कि ये लड़कों के साथ भी हो रहा है? मेरा भाई जिस लेवल के हरासमेंट से गुजरा है उससे सभी को, उसके जैसे लोग जितने भी आज के इंडिया में जितने लोग उसके जैसे हैं और जितने फॉल्स केसेस लगाए जा रहे हैं इंडिया में, सिर्फ इस लॉ को यूज़ करके निर्भया केस के बाद लॉ को इस तरह से प्रेजेंट किया गया है और उसी चीज़ का वो कानून जो है उसी चीज़ का मजाक उड़ाया, कानून में उसी चीज़ का मजाक उड़ाया जा रहा है। उसी चीज़ को का फ़ायदा उठा के मेन के ऊपर मतलब फॉल्स केसेस डाल के जितने तरह के सेक्शंस यूज़ किए जा सकते हैं यूज़ करके एक सेक्शंस को अगर खारिज कर दिया जाता है कोर्ट के द्वारा, उस सेक्शंस को बाद में फिर से रीअप्लाई करके फिर से वही ट्रायल चलते हैं, वही सारी चीज़ें चलती है। तो ये कानून का गंदा मजाक नहीं है क्या? मैं ये पूछना चाहता हूँ।
अतुल ने कभी इस चीज़ की चर्चा की थी परिवार में आपसे, या भाई थे, माता पिता से, किस तरीके से उन्हें टॉर्चर किया जा रहा है और पैसे की डिमांड की जा रही है, एक्सटॉर्शन किया जा रहा है, क्या कभी भी चर्चा होती थी कभी भी?
सर उसका ये मानना था कि मेरे पैसे कमाए हुए पे अगर मैं गलत हूँ तो किसी का हक होना चाहिए, अगर मैं गलत नहीं हूँ तो किसी का और का हक नहीं होना चाहिए। अगर उसने पैसे मेहनत से कमाए हैं, जॉब करके पैसे कमाए हैं, तो इस पे उसकी वाइफ का हक डिवोर्स के बाद आप इस तरह से एक्सटॉर्शन करके पैसे लेने का राइट उनका नहीं है। अगर आप जेन्युइनली अगर डिवोर्स में होता, जेन्युइनली केस होते सेटल, इवन इसमें तो उसने जज को भी इसमें बताया कि कैसे जज जो है उसे पैसे मांग के कह रही हैं कि 5 लाख रुपए आप दोगे हमें तो हम ये केस सेटल डाउन करेंगे, और नहीं तो आपके और आपके फैमिली को सबको हरास करेंगे।
So basically, there's only one part where I kind of have an objection to, where he says, okay, this is the reason he had to end his life. I mean, obviously, death is not the answer. And I want to use this platform actually to tell our viewers that, people go through, Yashwant is an example in front of us. People go through all sorts of trials and tribulations. And I worry, which is why I'm not showing Atul's note and everything, because, there are copycat cases, and it can become a wrong precedent, that you crumble under the system and you give up and you take your own life. Though Atul in his own video says that, I leave my grieving parents and I'm guilty of that. But I would still urge, because life always gives one so many chances. And I know of Yashwant's case at least, that there is always a possibility to come out of it, of those circumstances, and life can always show you a way. So death is not the answer. I just wanted to put that in. But Yashwant, coming to you, what you heard, okay, I think Anaga wanted to come in earlier on some point, so I'll come to Anaga first. But this part about मेरे अस्थियों को गटर में फेंक दीजिए अगर जस्टिस नहीं हुआ तो, अगर जस्टिस मिला तो, so he's made a very strong appeal to the society at large. And because he was somebody who was a techie, his message went across. And like you said, otherwise so many cases keep happening. And Yashwant, you were reminding us this is not the first case of a man taking his own life. But somebody like Subhash managed to shake our conscience, managed to put it out there. He had the wherewithal to do it. Anagha, you were saying something on the earlier point that we were making.
Yes, earlier point. I just wanted to mention, clarify one thing. Now, when Mrs.
Hmm.
Kanganath's statement is mentioned that 99%. So, if this
Hmm.
is the viewpoint of a member of a parliament who is elected by us, see,
Hmm.
then what
Hmm.
could be the judiciary's view outside? No doubt, Mr. Surya had rectified it, and is
Yeah. Which is
expecting
why I played
general
both.
neutral law,
Yeah.
which we
Yeah.
actually are waiting for the same, because it is not only while you empower women, you cannot take away the legal rights of a man, because these are human rights, citizens rights, what has to get. Moreover,
Hmm.
now in
Hmm.
such cases, I would also add on one point. Moreover, even POXO is being used in these cases. They have made various allegations. I am
Hmm.
dealing with
Hmm.
various cases where allegations are made on the father for sexual abuse of the child. Allegations are made against the grandparents for the sexual abuse of the child. So
But
one
all
more
of
added
this is the
litigation.
lawyers, which is why I asked you that lawyers are also playing this game. Your own community, your own fraternity has to do some soul
but
searching, Anagha.
but exactly, so we need to have the judiciary entire system in workplace for it. It cannot be one
Hmm.
person
Hmm.
blamed for it, neither the litigant, nor the lawyer, nor the judges for it. It is we as a system, as a society, has to come forward with it. We have been recommending and requesting that we have case laws wherever any litigation is filed in court. First, put the child to a to a child counselor. Let the couple have a counseling sessions. If the things work out with them in an amicable manner, there is an amicable divorce. If not, then only if that property dispute has to be taken up, that can be taken up. Set up a formulas for alimony and maintenance for the
Yeah.
years of marriage which has
Yeah.
taken place.
Yeah.
Nowadays, we are coming up with like only 1 month of living together, and crores of rupees alimony. So
Hmm.
that's
Hmm.
really not fair. And
So
the
I'm glad you
females who,
brought that point
yes.
because I'm as I come to Yashwant, I'll also play out these key factors that the Supreme Court has laid out for what should be the factors under consideration when alimony is decided. For all those cases where alimony is the case that is fought for, so independent income or assets owned by the parties, that has to be taken care of. Social and financial status taken care of, as in taken into consideration. Social and financial status of the party has to be taken into consideration. Reasonable needs of the wife and dependent children. Individual qualifications and employment status of both parties have to be taken into consideration. So these are important points. Again, reasonable litigation costs, especially for a non working wife, the husband's financial capacity. All of this has been reiterated now by the Supreme Court. So, a total of 8 factors, in fact, let me put it out from the beginning. Independent income or assets owned by the applicant, standard of living enjoyed by the wife in the matrimonial home, sacrifices made for family responsibilities such as career, etc. So, the Supreme Court has taken a very comprehensive view, Yashwant, of the alimony issue. And I'm putting that out for our viewers to see. If you could tell us about the point about alimony and the point about what happens when a child is involved.
You were talking about the lawyer's role in all this. I'll tell you,
Hmm.
a strangely funny thing is when a
Hmm.
person goes to a lawyer saying, I want to file so and so case against my husband or wife or whatever, against
Hmm.
his family or something. Most of the lawyers will have a format of allegations which will
Hmm.
encompass all possible allegations under the sun.
Hmm.
Drugs
Hmm.
करता है, ये करता है, वो करता है. They're all similar in nature.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, firstly, that format will be given, and it'll be like, okay, this man is the worst possible character that was ever born. He does everything under the sun.
Hmm. Hmm.
Now,
Hmm.
coming to this, what you said, this has always been in question. Supreme Court must have reiterated this
Yeah.
today or
Hmm.
yesterday, but
Hmm.
these are the grounds on which alimony has been decided in India for a very long time. If I'm not
Hmm.
mistaken, Anaga, you know better than
Absolutely.
me.
About the
This is
career
just
and
been
about that
reiterated.
part, I'm not sure. Anaga will tell us. Yes,
No,
Yeah.
this
Anaga.
is anyway been reiterated in the Supreme Court's guidelines, which have been stated now. This is not that
Okay.
we do not have this, but honestly speaking, with the latest Rajneesh versus Neha judgment, which we all
Yeah.
are following, the Supreme Court has also given us a certain format of an affidavit, that is a disclosure affidavit. On oath, both
Okay.
the parties have to file, one while claiming it and one while responding to that. So all
Okay.
this is done, but do we really have a machinery to check into the details of the affidavit of it? Honestly,
Hmm.
no. As I said, when we have hundreds of cases on board, maybe with 30 and 40 out of them are actually ripe for hearing. Courts do not have that machinery to get into so much huge bundle of affidavits, which runs into hundreds and 200s and 1,000 pages, where you put all your bank statements, your ITRs, and all your assets, properties. Does the court really have that time, energy, and an effort to get into that? We are lacking of infrastructure over there. Like in foreign, we should also have, though we do not compare all our laws to the foreign land, how what they function there, but we need to have a setup where
Yeah.
a CA, accountant, counselor, everyone, you sit across, work out a quantum of alimony as per this, the child support what is required, and then it can be formed into a part of an order. These norms which are cited are already been in use. We are anyway using it,
Yeah,
putting it in
but
the
it
form
makes
of
sense
affidavit.
to, but it makes sense for us while we are on the topic to put it out for the information of the people
Absolutely.
watching us, for those who want to know about what the rules are. Because yes, misuse. When laws are made, if it is the laws are designed to correct the wrongs that are existing in the society, we expect that. But the same laws, when over time it is noticed that okay, now these laws are being weaponized, that is the time again as a society we have to wake up and say, okay, now let's take a relook at it. I mean, this country obviously needs all sorts of reforms. Legal reform is probably one of the top priorities that is currently staring at our faces. A lot of comments that are also coming into the show, so I'm going to just read out one of them, which says numerous cases where it is traumatic for the child. A neutral lawyer must take up divorce cases. Okay, again, the point about the lawyer, the justice system is flawed. So, closing questions again, Yashwant, to you. What happens when a child is involved?
When a child is involved, it just, so to speak, shit hits the fan worse, because till it's two adults, you can take adversity, you can take all sorts of mudslinging, but uh, I mean, I hope that some member of parliament doesn't go and make a statement like men are not attached to their children and women are attached to their children. I hope that doesn't happen. What I'm trying to basically say is that both parents are equally so attached to their children, and when they see that the non-custodian parent is being treated like somebody who has no role or duty towards the child, it is one of the most painful experiences that I'm sure that Atul must have. I have not read his entire 24-page thing, but Atul must have given a big chapter on that, because I have suffered, and I stand here today with so much of pain inside me. Of I raised my child till she was 6 years old, and after that, when this happened, today she must be about 16, but I've not seen her for years. So that pain of losing a child is no sort of compensation can make up for that. So it's I think, I feel that the courts have this attitude, and they are cognizant of the fact that non-custodian parents have equal right on a child's access. This, time and again, I heard from various judges in my experience, but it remained in paper, on paper, it remained in their thought, it remained in their ideology, but in practice, I was never able to see my daughter at peace. It was child, more often than not, it becomes one of the strongest weapons of the custodian parent. More often than not, the wife, because more often than not, the child is with the wife, and she uses the child left and right to get back at her partner, at the cost of the child's mental health. And this is something that I really plead. I want to appeal to all those women who might be listening to the show, is keep it between adults. Please don't involve children in this, because the damage is permanent, in my opinion.
It leaves deep scars on the child's mind. It really
Yeah.
Yeah,
leaves.
another, so yeah, like basically, I think Ashwin put it so well that again, using it as an ammunition, that is so unfair. The child should be kept aside. there's so many things that it seems as if there's so many things that can be weaponized at the moment. The child is weaponized by the custodian parent. The law is weaponized to a certain extent. Uh, in conclusion, what can be corrected and what should be immediately corrected, that such cases like that of Atul Subhash doesn't happen again, Anaga?
We need to have a complete reformation of the matrimonial laws. The father should not be treated as an ATM card. I also hate the concept where you say visitation rights of the father or the non-custodian parent. Father or mother, whoever the child, the custodian, non-custodian parent can is not a visitor in the child's life. He should play an
Hmm.
active role in the entire parenting of the child, because that is what the memories that the child will carry, who is the future citizen of our country. Moreover, while using the child as a weapon, the child is put as into a loyalty conflict. That whether your father is good or your mother is good, the child is so innocent and naive that he doesn't know, and he has to succumb to the demands of the custodian parent. So the entire matrimonial law needs to be revived. We need to
Hmm.
have better infrastructure. We need to have better this counselors in this thing, because in this session everyone, not only the children but even the litigant, needs counseling. Currently the counseling what we have is only for working out a settlement in the court if it is working out, or otherwise the matter proceeds on merit. We need actual counseling for the therapies which can be utilized, which would calm the high emotions which they are draining
And
into
how do you
during the
correct the
course of the
corruption,
relationship.
Anagha, where a person is told कि आप 5 लाख दे दो तो आपका केस सेटल होगा, नहीं तो आप लड़ते रहो, एंड मेरिट पे तभी तब मेरिट पे जाओगे तो आपको कोर्ट के चक्कर काटने पड़ेंगे. सिंस यू मेंशन द वर्ड ऑन मेरिट तो लड़ ही रहा था वो. I mean, in from
On
his own
merits of,
account, I'm saying.
while I say we need to have reforms in the matrimonial law, today we
Hmm.
give them an opportunity of filing cases in different courts, magistrate court, family court, different courts. Why don't we bring all the cases under one roof, which eases the trial? Which, when you
Okay.
talk of corruption, that corruption is also not there, because all is scrutinized under one roof. You have a place to make your point of view. You do not have to go to different courts. You do not have to appoint different lawyers. You do not have to undergo the cost of litigation. Nothing. It all comes under the one roof. So corruption and all is now, right now, if I have to mention on it, that has to be still investigated what is there.
Hmm.
Just pointing it out of the judges, I have come across judges who are very keen also working out on settling a matter and trying to bring a closure in the
Hmm.
form of mediation and working out an amicable settlement. They do not have any selfish interest there. But if
Yeah.
one
But
sort of
here the
one,
person is naming the judge and is also saying that जौनपुर में सबको पता है कि ऐसे ही होता है. आप किसी को भी पूछ लीजिए, 50 रुपए तो देने पड़ते हैं डेट के लिए. और अगर I mean, like to quote him, he says,
I,
मोटा मुर्गा मिल गया मेरे जैसा, तो वो 500 रुपए देगा to get a date, favorable date, because he can't come that often. He lives in another city. So, those struggles, those small struggles that compound the entire torture for him, he details it all. So, I want to know, in conclusion, of course, we have to be very fair and a little cautious here and put out the fact that the girl's side is not heard yet. The only statement that has come from the girl's uncle, who's also named in the FIR, is that we are innocent, we are falsely being implicated. Once Niharika comes back in town, she will clarify. So we don't know. I'm just putting that out for our viewers because we haven't heard from them. So I do not have a soundbite that I could play out from the other side. Let's be very fair on that front. Anything as a closing remark, Yashwant, to you?
Uh, what can I say? My closing remark was an appeal to, uh, I'll say it again, was appeal to all
Hmm.
those custodian parents. I won't say women or
Hmm.
men,
Hmm.
custodian parents who use their children as ammunition against the non-custodian parents.
Hmm.
I would ask them to be a little more caring towards their own children and not involve them in the
Hmm.
fight between their partner. That is the one of the biggest casualties that happens in a war like this.
Yeah. I think we had a fair discussion, and I really appreciate Anaga Nimkar and Yashwant Giri joining us here on the program. Thanks for sharing your thoughts. Thanks for giving us clarity. Anaga, thank you for giving us a roadmap on what should change, because that is what this country needs. We do not want young, bright, techie, like Atul Subhash, to end his life in this manner because the system failed him. And I heard the entire video, and I really felt that uh, it takes something like this to happen to shake us, because otherwise we would have not known all of this is going on. Of course, I'm not corroborating each and everything that he says. We don't know yet. Matter has to be investigated. But from the perspective of someone who died, from the perspective of someone who put out a dying video, this is what I felt. I felt this matter must be discussed, and idea was to get views from the likes of you, Anaga, and the likes of you, Yashwant, who know these sort of cases very, very closely, have experienced such instances firsthand. Thank you so much, Anaga and Yashwant, for joining me here on the program.
Thank you, Afida.
Thank you for having us.
Yashwant. Thanks, viewers.
Thank you. And many thanks to all our viewers for joining us. Do feel free to put in your comments and give your suggestions on the program. Thanks for watching.